Welcome to Habitat Live. Today we have 4 board members. We have 2 board presidents and 1 board treasurer. We have Brian Sokoloff, who's president, and Mark Ulrich, who's board treasurer from Bell Park Gardens. And from Glen Oaks Village, we have board president Bob Friedrich. So combined, all your co-ops, your 2 co-ops, represent nearly 4,000 units in Queens. So I'd like if you could give me a picture of your operations and financials as of today and how that has changed from pre-COVID-19 days.
Well, I'll take a start first.
Okay.
We don't really know what the financial impact of this is going to be. It's really, we've distributed the maintenance statements for the first month. There have been a tremendous number of layoffs nationally and in the New York area, but we don't know yet how that's going to affect us in terms of maintenance revenue. I could tell you that the stream, we get a certain amount of our revenue from flip tax, and the stream of apartment sales seems to have gone down to a trickle. So although we're not feeling it right now, we will in the next few months.
Just describe to me about flip tax, because I know you had said a number of years ago you were very dependent on flip taxes.
Well, Mark and I became part of an insurgent group that dethroned a previous board, and their formula was to keep maintenance unbelievably low by subsidizing regular operations through a 20% flip tax. And we came on and said that that's great for now, but if the real estate market changes or something unforeseen happens, we weren't thinking of this, but this is a good example, we have to protect the revenue. And so we diminished in steps the 20% flip tax to a 5% flip tax with a corresponding increase in maintenance. So we've protected ourselves a little bit. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, Carol, that's always the concern of a flip tax. Here in Glen Oaks Village, we do not have one. But the concern of a flip tax is that you're relying on revenues that may not come in, depending on the real estate market, to run your regular operation. So it's really important to be smart about how you allocate those funds. Let me just say one other thing, because we're going to talk about the pandemic and how this affects our co-ops. The 3 of us were all part of the President's Co-op and Condo Council, which is really a think tank or a consortium of about 100 co-ops, mostly in Queens, but in Manhattan and Brooklyn, that have over 100,000 individuals living in those co-ops, about 40,000 units. So I've spoken to a lot of them. I know Brian and Mark have also. So what we're going to tell you, the information we're going to present to you is information that is percolating out there in the co-op world. Mm-hmm. And I will just get to one thing that Brian had said before. Because we're in uncharted waters and truly an unprecedented time, my concern has always been the impact of unemployment on our shareholders and their ability to make the maintenance payments. And about a month ago, I sent a letter out to all of our co-ops and to our elected officials asking them to ask the New York City Department of Finance to give us a 90-day delay on payment of our property taxes, which are due on April 15th. I will let you know that property taxes are probably the single largest component of every co-op's budget. So in order to maintain liquidity, which is really important, we cannot send out that first payment for at least 60 to 90 days because we don't know what those receipts are going to be. If, God forbid, we have a huge number of individuals that are unemployed and unable to make their maintenance payments, we cannot leave the co-op in this cash poor position. We must maintain liquidity. So I've urged other co-ops to write a letter to the Department of Finance and asking them, telling them that we are going to pay this. We're asking for a 90-day delay period, the same delay period that the governor has granted individuals who pay their mortgages, the same 90-day period the IRS has granted taxpayers, the same 90-day period New York State has granted their taxpayers. So far, we've met with silence, and it's quite outrageous that they are absolutely tone deaf to the needs of co-ops. We must maintain liquidity. It's essential. We're not saying we're not going to pay the taxes. We understand those taxes are due, but by delaying it 90 days, we're hopefully able to emerge at the other end of this pandemic financially sound and capable, and with the ability to pay those taxes.
So in your co-op, you have not paid them?
We have not paid them. We sent a letter to the commissioner, and basically the letter is is telling the commissioner that we need this temporary delay in order to maintain our liquidity, because we can't put ourselves in a perilous cash crunch. And then we also say we fully anticipate and expect to pay all the property taxes within the 90-day period. And finally, we tell the New York, the commissioner, that we trust and anticipate that New York City Department of Finance will not assess penalties or interest on the short-term delay in payment of these property taxes due to this unprecedented situation. So we're going to see what's happening. I know a lot of other co-ops have also joined with me in doing that. Some haven't, but some have, and we're still working with the elected officials. But it really is outrageous that at this point in time, the New York City Department of Finance and the mayor and the elected officials have been totally silent on this issue, which affects affordable housing, which is what our co-ops are.
Just give me a sense of what percentage of your operating budget is your property taxes.
I could take that one because our co-op is probably one of the hardest hit by these unfair, backbreaking property taxes. 50% is about our number. We have about a $9 million budget, meaning we have about $9 million in operating expenses per year here at Bell Park. We're in Oakland Gardens, part of Bayside, Queens. And so it's not just our 800 unit development, it's all our surrounding neighborhood co-ops, including out to where Bob's co-op is in Glen Oaks. About $4.5 million out of a $9 million budget is property taxes. So every dollar this co-op spends, 50 cents goes to property taxes. So it's a huge number, and it's been crippling our budget really a lot over the past decade as it's increased exponentially, 8, 10, 12% a year. There's no cap on co-ops property tax increases. So it's an incredible burden on us. And as Bob said, there's been no accommodations made for co-ops who really we are the last stand of affordable housing here in the city. So it's difficult. Our co-op made our payment. It was an automatic payment in March. So I'm hoping that we're able to survive. But as Bob said, it's a big worry for our cash flow.
Let me just
Carol, let me just add one thing. Lest people just roll their eyes and think, well, everybody complains about the property taxes. This could be a whole separate discussion. But the co-ops have been hit harder than other living situations in the city because, unlike them, we are not subject by law to a tax cap. So, private homes, they roll their eyes too. Their taxes go up. But with us, we have no cap, and the sky is the limit, and it's been the limit.
Let me just ask, for your properties now, day to day, have you made accommodations if people feel they will have difficulty paying their maintenance? And if so, what has that been? Brian?
Yeah, so let me answer that, and I'm going to give props here to my board treasurer, Mark Ulrich. We actually came up with an entire questionnaire anticipating that people were going to ask us to defer their maintenance without a late fee payment, an entire detailed questionnaire designed to find out if this is truly a hardship situation, demonstrate that you're recently unemployed, demonstrate that you're not getting unemployment, or is this somebody, unfortunately, trying to take a free ride? Because there people like that do exist. So we were proactive with that. I think we got, Mark, what, one application, and then the person got unemployment and then withdrew the request.
Yeah, with the extra federal unemployment benefits, if for us still being semi-affordable, even given the property tax crisis and the overall backbreaking taxes that we all pay here in the city, I think the number is if you make 57 or 58,000 or less per year with the additional federal unemployment $600 a week benefit. If you'll make about the same as you did on unemployment, at least for a few months. So really, and when you think about all of the, as you mentioned, the mortgage, I think Bob mentioned the mortgage programs that the governor had put out, letting people delay their mortgage payments 3 months. Really, anyone who's going on unemployment insurance should be able to allocate the few $100s per month for their maintenance payment, which is really paying their very basic essentials. Their electric, their utilities, property taxes. So we feel that, as long as somebody is, the form was a way to really figure out what was going on, but also to figure out, have you applied for unemployment benefits? And we requested a copy of the confirmation that the benefits have been applied for, because we don't have the ability to put all maintenance payments on hold for a few months and pay expenses out of some imaginary reserve account that we don't have. So we really, are being sympathetic, but also practical and kind of trust but verify. And so if someone really has to demonstrate a need, and really in our development, I don't anticipate that many situations of people really needing real assistance, because we're probably still about a third retired, our community, so their payments aren't affected. We have a number of we're a middle class, working class community. We have a number of essential workers, whether they're police, fire, EMTs. We have pharmacists. We have tons of people who are still working, and then we have a lot of other people who are not essential workers but are working from home. We have a lot of teachers and college professors and professionals that are still working. So really the number of people that are getting laid off, I think, in a community like ours is going to be pretty minimal, which is fortunate. And I think those of us who aren't affected by this are very fortunate.
And Bob, in your community?
Just a couple of things. Obviously, the reason why it's so important that the shareholders make their payment is because when they don't make their payment, it becomes the burden of everyone else. We're not a profit-making entity. The only money we get are from shareholders, and that's used to operate our buildings. So to the extent that you want to minimize that burden on everybody else, it's important that we collect from everyone. We have stopped any late payments for the next 90 days. We just made a blanket rule that we won't charge late payments. And we've told individuals that if they can't pay, we'll work out a payment program with them. Now, I did look at our demographics, which are pretty similar to Mark's. So I'm hopefully optimistic that we won't have an issue. Obviously, I won't know probably until next week. Now, I did look at the most recent numbers, and as of Friday, which was April 10th, 21%, which is a high number, still not paid. That's not unusual. A lot of people in Glen Oaks wait to the very last day. So although that's the 10th, that may be a lot of money that hasn't been processed that was paid on the 10th. So that I'm hoping that number does go down, because as of the 10th, 21% of the shareholders in our coop, which is about 3,000 units, have not paid. I do want to say one other thing. Mark talked about the unemployment program, which is very good. But there's also another part of the CARES program, which is called the Payroll Protection Program.
Paycheck.
The Paycheck Protection Program, which is not available to residential cooperative housing developments. And that's a serious problem, because if someone was to have a problem with these maintenance payments, presumably they may have to then lay off individuals that are operating our buildings. With the Paycheck Protection Program, we would be able to get this short-term loan that converts into a grant, and and be able to continue to pay our individuals and some of the other expenses. But that act specifically excluded our residential housing co-ops. Now, the President's Co-op and Condo Council and others, we've been in contact with Senator Schumer's office and some of our elected representatives, and hopefully in the second package, in the second go-around that's currently under consideration, that prohibition will be eliminated.
Let me ask you about your staff. Have you juggled staff? Have you maintained building staff? Both of you must have quite a large number of staff.
Well, we haven't had to lay anybody off. The office staff we've asked to work from home. They do come in occasionally to pick something up. No, I can't say. The groundskeepers are outsourced, so that's not our issue.
In Glen Oaks, we are fully self-managed. Our employees work for us. Our management staff reports to the board of directors, completely, fully self-managed. We have allowed many of our individuals in the office, not the maintenance. We have two departments. We have the office and then we have the maintenance. In the office, a lot of them to work at home if possible. And we've set up our systems to allow that to happen. It's been quite successful. It's actually been a learning process for us and something we may use in the future. And we've been able to pretty much reduce in half our management staff. We have about 24 individuals in our management staff. That consists of the property manager, general manager, our accounting department. We run it just like a business, like any other operation. So we've done that. We've also, every week, we're sending out a COVID-19 update. We're asking people to limit any walk-in traffic. We've elected not to lock our doors like a lot of co-ops have done, but we've asked people, call first before you come in. If it's something that absolutely cannot be done over the phone, then you can come in. Otherwise, we're going to ask you to go home, make a phone call, and do it from home. We've also asked people not to drop their checks off in the office. We have a mailbox outside to do that. We've also, because we also pick up garbage, we are a horizontal co-op that's non-high-rise. We're 134 buildings, over 125 acres in two non-contiguous areas. So we pick up garbage actually Monday through Saturday. We have the little golf carts that come around. So we went from a 6-day-a-week garbage pickup where people would leave garbage outside to 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. That has helped because a lot of our staff, a lot of our maintenance staff is either on family leave, they've taken vacation, or they've tested positive, or not, I shouldn't say tested positive, they've been around somebody who had the COVID-19 symptoms. So they are self-quarantining themselves. So because we've had a reduction in that maintenance staff, we've had to change some of our procedures. So far, everything is working fine.
And let me just ask, looking forward the next month or two, can you just kind of project out for your co-ops what you are concerned about and what you think will be working fine for you?
Well, one other thing from before, we shut down our playgrounds. Even though we were cleaning them on a daily basis and sanitizing them, we actually found most people weren't using them, so we just closed them down. We've left our dog park open because the adults that use the park are maintaining a 6-foot distance between each other. So we found that didn't pose a problem. I am really hoping that by May 1st, we can start seeing this economy open up. It's been devastating to a lot of small businesses, really devastating, and also very difficult for individuals. A lot of people like to go to restaurants. They like to sit together and talk and be close to one another. So I am hoping that we can start seeing an opening on May 1st, if not even sooner, but at least May 1st, where that can begin. And then I do think that in 60 to 90 days, when I believe most of this will be gone, because viruses don't really do very well in the summer, that we can emerge at the other end as close to normal as possible. I don't know what that actually will be, but I think it's important that everybody be able to get out. The summer's coming. You know, you look around, the trees are in bloom. It's kind of like a season of renewal, but it doesn't feel that way when you're shut in an apartment.
And Brian and Mark, how about for your co-op?
Mark, I'll go first. I hope that we are through the worst of it. The worst of it seems to have been the uncertainty about how long this was going to go on. I just personally have a feeling from listening to the governor and listening to the president that we're more than halfway through this. So I'm optimistic that we could come through this without too devastating a long-term results. But in the beginning, it seemed like we were in a combination post-nuclear apocalypse and Great Depression. And Marco confirmed this at our last board meeting. I congratulated the board by telling them, congratulations, we are now going to have to make decisions that no board before ever had to make. Nobody's been in this situation before. So,
Brian, what are you doing about your annual meetings? Our annual meeting is usually in May or June.
Ours is in May, and we have decided that we're going to put it off to September. We consulted with council. Usually there's an election that accompanies that. But in this pandemic, we are told that we are on firm ground in deferring it until September.
We're going to do the same.
Yeah. So, financially, as you look towards May, the April cash collections was a worry, and then of course the May cash collections will also be another worry. As of right now, none of our bills have been postponed or delayed. So, as much as I'm happy that in our development we're under 10% of the units that haven't paid their April bill yet. I think we're at about 62 non-payments out of 800. So that's pretty good. But as people continue not to work, and if there's more layoffs and more issues, it could cause an issue for May. Although, as I said before, with the unemployment benefits, it really shouldn't affect people's ability to pay, as they're going to be able to collect, all or most of their usual income. So the annual meeting was another thing I was going to mention. Right now we'd be in the middle of taking nominations for open board of director spots. And so another thing that we're passing through now is the property tax abatement credits and star credits, which is also going to be coming up. And the timing is pretty good, so people should have lower bills due to those credits, which is a good thing. I'm fortunate that and I think we all are, that we didn't get a chance to appreciate the winter we just had without any snow. So fortunately, our cash position was a little bit better than usual after a winter, because we incurred virtually no additional incremental snow removal costs. So that was at least a positive going into this. But when the winter ended, we went right into this crisis. So no one got a chance to appreciate the mild winter we had. So.
And
Well,
it sounds
by the way,
like
that was a great point. And plus, we had it was much warmer than normal. So.
Right.
And it sounds like nobody has entered this sort of pandemic era on a weak financial or a shaky operational stand. So
Our co-op was, when Brian and I got elected about getting close to, I guess, 4 years ago now. Our co-op was in bad shape, low reserves. It was very bad mismanagement, and we were close to running out of cash. But we've built ourselves back up. We reduced reliance on that flip tax that Brian discussed before. We have more of our revenue recurring, maintenance revenue recurring. So we are definitely in a much better position than that we were. But this crisis does scare me a little bit, because it really shows you that most people living in this area personally are really living paycheck to paycheck, and it really shows the need for affordable housing like ours. in the co-ops, because you're looking at people missing one paycheck and all of a sudden not being able to pay for the necessities. It indicates that a good number of people in this city and this metropolitan area are really living paycheck to paycheck, and in good part it's those backbreaking taxes we mentioned before. So while we're happy at the co-op to be on good financial ground, I do worry about my neighbors and fellow people in the city, because it seems a lot of people are one paycheck away from being in big trouble.
Well,
Okay.
Carol, let me just add one other thing. What we don't, nobody knows what this experience will do for the real estate market. Of course, nobody is showing apartments now, so apartments aren't being sold. But even when these controls lift, are people now going to be a little jittery about taking on a big expense? My parents' generation, we always used to hear about, well, they don't want to spend because that's a depression mentality, that they always felt, just be conservative, don't take risks, because you never know when the rug is going to be pulled out from under you. What, in the macro sense, what is this going to do to the real estate market? We don't know.
We've already had in our development a couple of sales in progress that have been paused, or the buyers backed out because of the uncertainty. And this is yet another reminder that when boards are looking at prospective candidates, they really need to do a thorough search into the buyer's income and financials. And and I think now more than ever, it's a sign to say, hey, what does this candidate savings account look like in the event that there's periods where there's no income due to a crisis like this. As I said, it really shows the lack of preparedness of many people in an emergency like this in terms of their personal finances. So it is scary in that regard. And of course, for the developments relying on some sort of flip tax revenue, the number of sales is going to drive that revenue down, as well as possibly the sales prices. So it will be interesting how that goes on the other side of this. We just don't know.
All right. I thank all of you. Sounds like you're running your operations well, and good luck in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very
Thank
much.
you.
Take good care, everyone.